Madhubata ritayate madhuksharanti sindhavaha madhve'irna santoshadhehe madhunaktam utoshase madhumatparthiva gumrajaham madhudyaurastu napitam madhumanno vanaspatir madhumagumastu suryaham madhvirgambho bhavantu na. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the winds blow sweetly. May the rivers flow sweetly. May days and nights be sweet to us. May the trees and plants be sweet to us. May the dust of the earth be sweet to us. May the sun shine on us sweetly. May the cows yield sweet milk to us. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be blissful. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. Friends, we are happy today we have a guest speaker, Swami Kripamayananda, head of the Vedanta Society of Toronto, Canada. It is always a spiritual feast for the devotees when we find the visiting Swamis. I remember in 1988, we started Golden Jubilee of Vedanta Society of St. Louis. So we decided, instead of having a big function, bringing all Swamis on one occasion, it is better to have one Swami each month. Thus we have 10, 12 Swamis, and we recorded their talks. We have many valuable videotapes of all those old visiting Swamis. Holy Mother's disciple, Swami Sharda, Swami Shivananda's disciple, many Swamis came here. So it is always good that we have some visiting Swamis. Otherwise you people may get bored to hear the same Swami every Sunday. Anyhow, his topic will be Holy Mother and Adjustment Yoga. We shall hear something new. It is a new yoga. We know Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, Adjustment Yoga. Perhaps something unique the Swami will tell us. Swami Kripamayananda.
Good morning, friends, and my pranam to revered Swami Chetananandji Maharaj, and my dear Shivarchananandji is here. I'm meeting him after a long time, the new assistant minister, and the two Swamis here, Nishpapanandji and Nirakaranandji, and the devotees. It is always a pleasure to come to St. Louis, and coming from and bringing all the good wishes from true north, as we call, to Canada. Canada during winter seems to send a lot of snow and cold, but during this time, if that a little of that cold will come, then it will be so pleasant in St. Louis. It's so warm. So today's topic is adjustment yoga. The idea of this came that we heard that Swami Madhavanandji used to tell to sadhu brahmacharis that 4 yogas you have to practice to reach God. But when you live in community, the 4 yogas has to be practiced along with 5th yoga, and that is adjustment yoga. You have to adjust with the people of the community, in the monastery. If you can't do that, you cannot practice yoga. Always you will be disturbed, restless, and you will have complaints against the people, against the place, against time, against situation, and mind will be not fit to practice any yoga. So this fifth yoga is as much important as other four yogas to practice spirituality. And this adjusting with the situations and the place and the people and the time, how much to do that? The best example we find is Holy Mother. That's why Holy Mother and adjustment yoga. Why adjustment is yoga? Because without, this is also, adjustment also takes us towards the union with God. Without adjustment, we will not be able to practice any yoga, any of the four yogas, and our spiritual progress will be difficult. Sri Ramakrishna told Holy Mother that to adjust one's conduct according to time, place, and circumstances, and the nature of the people. It is certainly an interesting topic, but we must remember that whenever we use the word like adjustment yoga and Holy Mother in the same sentence, then it is no longer just a simple and easily understood subject. It automatically begs us for a deeper introspection and examines its relevance in our lives. First of all, the English word adjust comes first from Latin, ad meaning to, and just meaning near. And subsequently in French, the word adjuster, which means to refine, calibrate, regulate, and the most accurate meaning is to go near. We also know the meaning of the word yoga, which in the most simplistic term means union with the divine. So the very first and basic question we must ask ourselves is, why is the adjustment of yoga necessary for a spiritual seeker? Well, as per definition itself, it clearly shows that without purifying or calibrating our thoughts, speech, and action, maintaining a healthy body and healthy mind, a regulated daily spiritual practice, we simply cannot go near or form an union with the divine. In this case, being with the Holy Mother. So, in order to be one with the Holy Mother, we must follow certain routines and make adjustments in our daily lives to partake in true yoga. As Sri Ramakrishna always says, that the ultimate goal of human life is to realize God or to realize our innate divinity. The next question that comes, how should we make these adjustments? And who should be our primary example in life, whom we should try to emulate? Now, in our everyday life, we tend to make all sorts of adjustments, knowingly and unknowingly. Unfortunately, most of the adjustments we end up making are either for selfish gains or to simply get along or to avoid facing responsibilities or to simply please someone or out of fear, etc. But eventually, we can sustain them, that it may lead to our misery, hypocrisy, weakness, greed, etc., if it is forced adjustment, if it is without seeing our own being in them, without realizing the self that in us resides in all. That is the true adjustment brings the feeling of the realization of divinity in oneself and in all. But eventually we can sustain it. Therefore, from the very beginning, we must recognize that in spiritual life, we are not making adjustments for worldly benefits. Rather, it is for uniting with the divine, to be with God, to raise ourselves from the lower self to the higher self. That is why it is called adjustment yoga. Now, it is not easy task. For example, we see in the famous battle of Kurukshetra, a heroic Kshatriya warrior named Arjuna, although standing on the side of truth and justice, fails to make the necessary adjustment of his emotion, grief, sadness, weakness, etc. By simply seeing his beloved kinsmen as the opposition fighters, and decides to drop his bow and arrow. Thank God, Lord Krishna was Arjuna's charioteer, who comes to the rescue of his friend. He helps Arjuna by various means to make the necessary adjustments which we find in the Bhagavad Gita. So once again, Arjuna can stand up and perform his Kshatriya duties in life, in this case, fighting against the Kauravas and their injustice. If you notice, you find that the entire process of Lord Krishna's teachings in the Bhagavad Gita is nothing but a spiritual exercise, and he emphatically tells Arjuna that I regard them to be perfect yogis who see the true equanimity in all living beings and respond to the joys and sorrows of others as if they were their own. Therefore, Krishna prescribes Arjuna by saying, O Arjuna, in all circumstances be a yogi. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. Now, we must admit, time to time we all face these Arjuna syndromes in our lives. We cannot run and hide from it. And yet we all want to have a free and smooth ride to cross the ocean of samsara, this human life. That's why Swamiji says, it's good to be born in a church, but not to die there. Because sooner or later, we must face the brute. Therefore, we must make the necessary adjustments in our lives through spirituality only. And in the 19th century, there is not a greater practical, viable, and spiritual example than the Holy Mother, Ma Sarada Devi, to show us the way how to perform adjustment yoga. It is the Holy Mother who makes all the adjustments on behalf of her children, such as once a old sick portal lady came to Jairambati. It was night, she could not go back to her own village. Holy Mother said, take rest here. She was feeling sick. Holy Mother gave her bed, and at times she soiled it, she threw on the bed, she became very sick. And Holy Mother said to that lady, that you leave early in the morning before others understand. And she herself cleaned that soiled linen. Holy Mother herself, without telling anyone. That was her adjustment with the people and the attitude of service for her children. For her, she was not a poor porter lady, but was a divine being, was her own daughter. That's how she saw. Once Holy Mother was seen picking pieces of glass from the street at night with a small kerosene lamp, hurricane lamp, she was doing. One person, one of the household devotee, he saw light on the street and some person was doing something. That person came near and saw it was Holy Mother almost at midnight. Then he asked, Mother, what are you doing this time here? Then she said, my child, there I found some pieces of glasses broken or strewn on the street. And when the people walk on it, they may get injured in their feet. So I am cleaning and clearing that. But Mother, you could have told to any one of us. No, she would not give trouble to others. She wanted to help her children by herself. That was her love for the children. A great adjustment with the situation by herself, always and everything pouring only out of her pure love, without even any show that people should not know. Holy Mother used to do japam all the time. People said, Mother, you are divine. You are Goddess herself. Why you have to practice japam? She used to do 100,000 repetition of name of God every day. Holy Mother said, my child, there are people who take initiation and they don't have time in their busy worldly life to repeat God's name. So I do on their behalf repeat the name of God. After all, they are my children. They are failing to do the spiritual practice. So I have to take their care even in spiritual practice. She herself gave them mantra. It itself will make them free from worldliness. But Holy Mother will think about this, and that is the adjustment. She could easily say, you have to do what I said. That's how the Guru says. Whatever Guru says, you have to follow. That is the rule. If Guru asks you to climb a palm tree and jump from there, says Swami Vivekananda, you should do without asking anything. That's how the Guru is important in the life of a disciple. But here, Holy Mother would not even force for that. She gave the instruction, and her adjustment with the situation and out of love for the disciples, she would repeat the name of God on behalf of her disciples, who for her were not disciples, were her own children, because she is the mother of the universe. She is the mother of all. She lives like that, she lived like that, and she still lives like that. Always caring and loving her children. Among them, we all here are her children. And that is the adjustment she does with some situation, some people that may not come up to that level. That is her adjustment yoga. Such as, after all, she makes everything look effortless and seamless when it comes to making adjustments. Now, do we, as spiritual seekers, need to imbibe Holy Mother's qualities so we can make the necessary adjustments when situations arise as part of our spiritual practice? Well, if the Holy Mother is the all-pervading Divine Mother and the Absolute, who is also omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent, then we can certainly conclude that she is not the one who needs to make any adjustments, because she is the embodiment and representation of all adjustments. That's why we learn from Mother that যেখানে যেমন সেখানে তেমন, যখন যেমন তখন তেমন, যার সঙ্গে যেমন তার সঙ্গে তেমন. In Bengali, she learned it from Sri Ramakrishna, and she used to often say that this is how you should adjust with the people as they are, with the situation as it comes, with the time whenever it arises. Then only you can live peacefully and happily, and only when you have peace and happiness in your mind, you can practice spiritual discipline with full vigor. One of our fundamental teachings for any spiritual seeker is that, therefore, we can safely say that it is not her who is actually making the adjustments. Rather, it is her children who need to learn and to make the necessary adjustments as part of their spiritual practice in order to be one with the Mother of the universe. But from the outside, it seems that the Holy Mother who is making all the adjustments and her children are the beneficiaries, because Holy Mother throughout her life led by examples of continuous adjustments in order to teach mankind. Now we must make a clear distinction between what is yoga of adjustment and the regular adjustment we tend to make in our daily lives. Every day we are either forced or choose to make some adjustments in order to simply get by, and unfortunately, during the process we end up making compromises or simply devalue our true objectives. Therefore, our adjustments often ends up being either unsatisfactory, a burden, a misery, because we deviate from the truth and go against our real nature. This is where Holy Mother comes in and sheds light on our mistakes and struggles. Therefore, we must never ever forget that our true goal in life, which is to be near the Mother, it can be achieved through adjustment yoga without being influenced by any other motive factors. This has to be part and parcel of every life in all spiritual seekers, and no compromise nor corruption of the ideal to be had whatsoever. Otherwise, it would be superficial, unfulfilling, and counterproductive for the highest spiritual goal. We do recognize that we all have some learning disabilities in this regard. Yet, Holy Mother turns this around beautifully and teaches us how to learn differently and gives us hope and positive outlook to achieve our spiritual goal. We all know that life is a mixture of happiness, sadness, misery, grief, etc. But if we sincerely emulate Holy Mother's life, then we can begin to understand that despite God's Leela being inimitable and unpredictable, we can still overcome our shortcomings, recognize that anything but God is temporary, and still end up living a peaceful, contented spiritual life. That's why yoga of adjustments is so paramount, and no one is a greater teacher, a real life example than the Holy Mother. As we all know, that Holy Mother was born in a poor village of Jairambati, where she was free as a bird, happy-go-lucky, and perfectly contented since birth. But at the same time, just like all of us, she was not immune from day-to-day trials and tribulations of life, such as poverty, disputes with her siblings, lack of access to formal education, dealing with criticism, and facing countless challenges, etc. She always remained sthita prajna, a person of steady wisdom in every facet of life. A profound example. Holy Mother first came to Dakshineshwar back in 1872 to meet her husband Sri Ramakrishna for the very first time, and later on, after a few visits, she started living there permanently in the Nahabat. The place was so small that Sri Ramakrishna himself called it a cage. The cage was so small that she could hardly stretch her feet, not to mention she often shared this unlivable small place with other people, including Sri Ramakrishna's own mother, Chandramani Devi. To put things in perspective, Holy Mother later on developed terrible arthritis because she was forced to fold her feet while sleeping in the Nahabat due to lack of space in this small place. She daily cooked for Thakur and many devotees different foods according to individual tastes. On top of that, she served the Master's mother with unflinching devotion and care. Holy Mother, being a relatively tall woman according to the standard of Bengal women, would often hit her head on the extremely low door ceiling as she would enter her place of dwelling. She herself mentioned that in the beginning she would sometimes hit her head and later on became careful and got used to it and would enter by lowering her head automatically. Sometimes few healthy Calcutta women would come by to see the Holy Mother, and they would simply stand by the door and make remarks regarding her pitiable living condition. Ah, what an awful place our Sita Lakshmi is staying. It is just being in exile in the forest. That's how she adjusted with the small room. If you have visited Dakshineshwar, you would imagine that there can be so small place as a dwelling room. And that was not only room, it was like a house for Holy Mother, because that was her drawing room, that was her living room, that was her kitchen, that was her storeroom, only small, very tiny place. And sometimes guest room also. She would invite guests. And how she adjusted without any complaint, not complaining verbally, but not even mentally she had any complaint of any situation. All she could adjust and make the thing so livable and so joyful. On the top of these difficulties, she would hardly ever get to see Sri Ramakrishna, her spouse. The main purpose why she came to Dakshineshwar, which is to be near him and to serve him. But Holy Mother was unable to do so. She was always very shy and modest by nature, but she realized Dakshineshwar isn't her native village of Jairambati, where she freely roamed. This was Calcutta, where social customs and protocols are simply different. So she strictly adhered to it and also received instruction from Sri Ramakrishna in this regard. Holy Mother herself mentioned that her whole day would be spent in cooking different dishes for countless people, not to mention performing other necessary chores. Often Sri Ramakrishna would request her to cook specific food for Naren, Rakhal, and others to suit their tastes. Thakur's disciples, Ramchandra Datta, would sometimes drop by unexpectedly and express his desire to eat chickpea dal and roti. Mother never said no. She would come, get down from the carriage near the Nahabat and just say, I want roti and chickpea dal, cholar dal. And just without seeing Holy Mother, without any request. So that was his saying. And Holy Mother would be glad when sometimes she didn't have to see that the guest has come. Listening to the carriage coming, she knew someone is coming that time and started cooking the food. That was adjustment of Holy Mother, born out of pure love for Sri Ramakrishna and for the children of Sri Ramakrishna and herself. It is the love factor that makes adjustment no adjustment at all. It became a part of life, a joy, a peaceful act that gives tremendous happiness to a person. So, as we can see, despite all these impossible challenges and difficulties, Holy Mother faced living in Dakshineswar day in and day out. She never ever complained to anyone, let alone to Sri Ramakrishna. Rather, she would say, oh, how her every day would pass by in abundance of pure joy and happiness. She always felt the Nahabat was a mansion of mirth. Later on, she used to say, when her life became more comfortable in Bagbazar, Calcutta, that why do people always complain of ashanti or restlessness or conflict? What restlessness and conflict in life? I am a mother, and I never knew what restlessness was. Rather, I was always in peace during my stay in Dakshineswar. In referring to the Master, Holy Mother also said that as long as she was conscious, she never noticed Sri Ramakrishna being not in peace. He always was in divine bliss. Now, this is true manifestation of the adjustment yoga by Holy Mother. Now here is another practical example. Although Holy Mother hardly ever interfered in day-to-day running of the Ramakrishna Math and mission and imposed her supreme authority to the direct monastic disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. But when it was absolutely necessary, she never hesitated to override the decision or to make adjustments accordingly, even though if it was made by Swami Vivekananda himself. Once, when Holy Mother was staying in Bospara Lane near Bagbazar, a paid servant from Odisha was let go from his job for being accused of stealing from the mutt. Swamiji decided to let him go from his job for breaking the cardinal rule of honesty. Immediately, the poor fellow went to Holy Mother, crying and asking for help. Right away, Holy Mother gave him shelter and asked him to take bath and food and gave him comfort. The same day, during the afternoon, Swami Kripamayananda went to visit Holy Mother to offer his pranam. Immediately, Mother told him, referring to the dismissed servant, "This man is very poor. Due to sheer poverty, he made the mistake of stealing. But that is not good enough reason for Narayan to fire him from his job. So much suffering is there in worldly life. You are all sannyasins and wouldn't understand. So reinstate this servant in his job once more. Take him back to the mutt." Now, Swami Kripamayananda sheepishly told Holy Mother that if he takes the poor fellow back, despite being fired by Swamiji himself, Swamiji would be very upset. At that moment, Holy Mother strongly uttered, "It is my decision, and take him back." In the evening, when Baburam Maharaj returned to the mutt, along with the worker, he was scared of facing the wrath of Swami Vivekananda. Right away, Swamiji scolded Baburam Maharaj for bringing the fellow back. But after hearing from Baburam Maharaj regarding Holy Mother's order for reinstatement, there was no more anger in Swami Vivekananda, and he gladly took the worker back. Later on, in a laughing and at most reverential manner, Swamiji commented that this time fellow has learned to go to the High Court to get his job back, meaning none other than Holy Mother was this High Court, and once again she brilliantly displayed adjustment yoga by a harmonious approach of discipline and love. There are so many incidences such as we can see continuously unfolding in Holy Mother's life, even long after Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda's passing away. It was truly divine and beyond comprehension, even for the Ishwarakotis and the high-souled ones. Swami Premananda writes in a letter describing the Holy Mother's phenomenon, "The poison that we cannot digest, we are sending everything to Mother's way. Mother is embracing everyone and outing them into her lap and putting them into her lap, infinite divine Shakti, forbearance and compassion. We didn't even see Sri Ramakrishna do this. The Master used a great deal of discrimination and then carefully chose his disciples and allowed people to come near him. But what do we see in Mother? Just miracle, strange and dismaying. She is giving shelter to everyone, eating food with everyone, and yet she is able to digest everything. O Mother, hail to Mother." These were Swami Premananda's words. To illustrate this, here is another example. Once a poor Muslim man from a nearby village of Jairambati brought few bananas to the Holy Mother. With great deal of sheepishness and shyness, he told Mother that he had brought few bananas, and would she accept it for Thakur? Mother gladly accepted it and said to the man that she would definitely offer them to Thakur. After all, you have lovingly brought it for Thakur. As soon as Mother took the bananas in her hands, a nearby female devotee of the Mother rudely commented that she shouldn't offer those bananas to Thakur. This fellow is a thief and a Muslim. Mother paid no attention to her words and lovingly kept the bananas in the shrine room. Then she joyously gave puffed rice and molasses to the man, and with great love asked him to eat it on way to his home. You have to go a long way. The poor Muslim man walked away with great joy and satisfaction. After the man's departure, Mother sternly told that lady devotee, "Who is good and who is bad, I know. Who is Hindu and who is Muslim, I know. Who is a thief and who is a sadhu, I know. Everyone is capable of destroying things, but how many of you can actually build things?" Many such examples speak volumes and gives us a glimpse of Holy Mother's Atma Jyoti and Sarvatma Drishti, seeing self in all. Then again, it is not surprising, at least intellectually, to understand that this was only possible for Holy Mother, since she saw in herself in the whole universe, and the whole universe in her own being. So there was never any separation from anything and anyone. This is the goal of spirituality. And to reach this state, Vishwatma Buddhi, by yoga of adjustment, is the last word of Advaita Vedanta. We may think that Mother had to make so many adjustments and tailor things according to people's needs, sentiments, nature, etc. But that couldn't be further from the truth. She never consciously, nor did she ever have to make any adjustment of yoga, because Mother is the adjustment herself. The more we go near her, the more we automatically adjust ourselves towards spirituality. So let us hold on to her with all our might. Holy Mother's adjustments, examples of Holy Mother's adjustments are, how she adjusted with the situations. When she was traveling from Vishnupur to Jairambati, and on the way she had to travel by bullock cart, and it was lunchtime, then the rice used to be cooked in an earthen pot, and some firewood was brought in the wayside, and rice was being cooked. Almost it was cooked, and the earthen pot broke. Now rice had to be fed to the people before that it had to be offered. There was no time to again bring a pot in that jungle. It was the forest. And then what to be done? She just took out the rice that was at the topper level, which had not mixed with the ground, and offered that to Sri Ramakrishna as the offering. And from that gave to the people, take this. See her adjustment without being any way annoyed or disturbed according to situation. Everything she could do so beautifully. You know that when she was coming for the first time to Dakshineshwar, she met on the way a dacoit. And how she adjusted with the situation? She said to the dacoit, "Oh, Father, you are here. I was worried in this empty field, isolated field. It was so dangerous to find what would happen. I didn't know. I could finally find you. So I am now not worried." To the dacoit, he was the dacoit. And listening to Holy Mother's word, his heart melted. And later on, Holy Mother found a woman coming who was his wife, and she held that woman's hand and said, "Luckily I found you, otherwise where I would go? He is my father, you are my mother." And she just addressed them as father and mother. That's how she changed the situation, she changed the heart. These dacoits who perhaps would loot other people who walk, travelers, for Holy Mother, they protected for whole night. They brought food for her. They arranged a like small that village bed or cot, and she rested at night. And the man, the dacoit, kept vigil whole night to protect Holy Mother. That's how she adjusted with situations. She completely changed the situation simply because of her loving relationship with the people. Treating everyone as her own, which she taught all her life. Treat everyone as your own. No one is an alien, my child. All are your own. Learn to make the whole your own. We have to be trained and learn ourselves to make that. Initiation, so much of formalities need there. You read so much. In India, to get initiation, you have to read so many books, you have to take bath, you have to keep fast, wear the clean dress. Once she was in Vishnupur, and one poor porter from Bihar, he says, he somehow recognized Holy Mother as the Divine Mother. Somehow. That was some insights of the poor, illiterate people is amazing. So he said, "Mother, how to have initiation from you? I want to get mantra from you." Holy Mother could have said, I go to Jairam Bati, you go there, visit one day, and I will follow all the processes, and I will give you the mantra. But for that poor porter in the railway station, going Jairam Bati was very difficult. There was no transportation. And it was long time, and he was a daily earner. What did Holy Mother do in this situation? Jekhane jemon, sekhane temon. Jar sange jemon, tar sange temon. Adjust according to the situation and the place and the time. She said, yes, my child, I will initiate you. Sit down here. He just asked her to clean the little under the tree little place, and he sat, and Holy Mother, out of her grace, gave mantra to that person without any formality at all. That is the adjustment and spiritualizing the person, helping the person, giving them hope and letting them move towards God. That is the adjustment that Holy Mother always used to do. Once some gift was to be sent to Radhu. And Radhu and another Nalini, they were not at good in relationship in household. So Holy Mother knew that if I send something to Radhu, Nalini will be upset. Now how she adjusts with the people and situation? She found a way out. She said to Nalini herself, I want to send some gift to Radhu. What do you say? Should I send these things? Nalini was very happy, taken into decision making. And she said, you are sending to your niece something, this will not suffice. You have to send a better thing to her. She was totally in line with Holy Mother just because she gave Nalini a little importance. That is how she adjusts with the difficult situations in our household, always there. And how Holy Mother's love changed the mind. She used to say that which would be friction, would that make the support and smoothly things went. That's how Holy Mother worked always. Once the complaint came from one devotee that after Swami Vivekananda passed away, and they said, Mother, what are they doing? They are worshipping Sri Ramakrishna, the incarnation of God, and his disciple on the same level, putting the photographs of both on the same level. How can Guru and disciple be on the same level? Is it right, you think, that they should put Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda on the same altar, on the same level? Holy Mother said, no, I think they are not doing the right thing. If Sri Ramakrishna would be there, he would not put Swami Vivekananda beside him. He would put Swami Vivekananda on his lap. That was his love for Swami Vivekananda. And you are comparing that, skipping aside, beside each other is okay or not. That's how Holy Mother's adjustment with the situation and the thing. After that, no complaint ever. Last but not the least, I want to end my talk speaking about Radhu, Holy Mother's beloved and famous niece, and especially Radhu's last days. Radhu really served two purposes in Mother's life on. The one hand, she acted like a bond binding her heart to this world, and on the other, Radhu supplied an important background for the expression of Mother's adjustment yoga. In result, the greatness that manifested itself throughout all the drama of Holy Mother's life could not otherwise be easily comprehended by mankind. During Radhu's last illness, which was tuberculosis, all arrangements for her treatment were made by Satyen Maharaj, and she was sent to Varanasi. Priya Maharaj and Saraladi, later Bharati Prana, the first president of the Ramakrishna Sharada Mission or Sharada Math, looked after Radhu for 2 months. She would cook Radhu's food and would go and feed her. Everyone knew about Radhu's periodic rude behavior with Holy Mother. But during her last illness, Holy Mother filled her whole being. Look at the change in her. A remark was made to Saraladi. She then calmly said, Radhu is Yogamaya, the divine power whose support Holy Mother took to live in the relative world. Will she not change at the end? For that divine play, Radhu had to enact the part of a mad person. Now that the work is done, what will she do but to call on Holy Mother? Radhu became restless to go back to Jairambati and said, I do not want to die in Varanasi and attain mukti. I want to go to the mother. Saraladi tried to coax her into giving up the idea of going back to Jairambati. You remain here and you will be all right, she said. But Radhu would not listen to her. No, Saraladi, you are doing so much for me, but tell me, shall I not go to the mother? You want me to die in Kashi and attain mukti? Radhu knew what the disease she had, and it was incurable at the time. So she said, let Satyenda, Swami Atma Bodhananda, let Priyada, Swami Atma Prakashananda die here. I will go to mother. I will not stay here. Gangada, you take me to mother's house and leave me with mother. I will not stay here, Gangada. You take me to mother's house and leave me with her. Do you think who, meaning Holy Mother, who brought me up, who cared for me so much, do you think she won't come for me now? Even if my body is thrown into gutters, she will come and take me to her abode holding my hands. I wish to live in the same house where I lived with mother, and I wish to die there. So it happened. How surprising. It happened exactly as Radhu wished. On her continuous insistence, Gagan Maharaj finally took her to Jairambati. And with 15 days, Radhu died in mother's room. It was not Gangada, it was Gaganda. As we can see, at the end of Radhu's life, she made the adjustment yoga by being fearless, by having steadfast faith in the Holy Mother, and most of all, she earnestly wanted to be in union with the Mother, because Mother represents love and hope to everyone. Her love is infinite, fearless, free, and without any exception. She loved and she is love. We just have to make few adjustments in our lives to reach her. But if we can't even do that, then just earnestly call on her with our head and heart. She will always come for us, just like she did for Radhu and others. After all, Holy Mother is our real, eternal, universal Mother. The greatest adjustment yoga we can possibly make in our lives is not to find fault with others, rather to find our own faults, and this way we'll make the whole world our own. This will certainly please Holy Mother, and we would always be near her. So this is about the Holy Mother and the adjustment yoga. How we remember in the Bible of the Gospel of Matthews, Jesus is quoted to be saying that when you come to offer to God something, and remember that you had altercation, quarrel with your brother, don't offer. Go back to your brother, reconcile with him, and come back and offer. Then only it will be accepted, because then only you can offer with your full love and full heart. Otherwise, your mind will be with the fight and quarrel and friction. Half-hearted mind you will offer, you will not get joy. Lord will not accept your offering. adjustment is very important. If we want to practice yoga in our life, if we want to manifest the divinity that is already in our being, if we want to reach God, if we want to realize God by the practice of all the yogas, the fifth yoga or the adjustment yoga can make all our yogas possible. Maharaj just told what will happen when we, with the practice of adjustment yoga and all other four yogas, when we realize the divine, the God, whole universe filled with that divine bliss, then the Maharaj, Swami Chetananandaji's, the prayer, the air is sweet, the river water is sweet, the day and nights are sweet, everything becomes sweet, harmonious, beautiful. Everything, every situation, and every being is nothing but sweetness, harmony, and peace will come if we can find the divinity and the bliss that is within us, as Holy Mother had found that picture of bliss always installed in her heart by the practice of adjustment yoga. Thank you very much.
Thanks Swami Kripamayananda for his beautiful lecture on adjustment yoga. I was listening very carefully what he said. Adjustment is very vital in human life. I remember when I joined the monastery, I read Swami Turiyananda's reminiscences. There he said, who is strong? That is the question. Who is strong? Here is a cast iron rod, and here is a steel rod. Both are rods. Cast iron rods, if you bend, it will break. Here is a steel rod, if you bend, it will bend, it will not break. So a steel rod is strong, stronger than the other rod, because it has more power of adjustment. Then I was traveling in 1982, I was visiting Allahabad, went to take bath in the Prague, where the Ganges and Jamuna meet. So we are in a boat, one of my brother monks was telling me, you know, in the monastery, in the organization, we need adjustments. Then he gave a beautiful example I shall never forget in my life. Have you seen Shalogram Shila? Very smooth stone. Actually, they are all broken, some piece of rocks in the Himalayas. Thousands of years, those rocks come from the top of the mountain, perhaps 1,400 miles, hitting each other. This rock hits this rock hits each other rock. In this way, they smoothen themselves. And later on, those rocks will be worshipped. So he says in the order, sometimes we have egos. All friction, always remember, comes from egos. So you break my ego, I shall break your ego. So breaking each other's ego, we travel 1,600 miles, and we smooth, and then we will be worshipped. When you become egoless, you will be worshipped. Beautiful example he gave to me. When he was talking about the adjustment yoga, I remember in Hollywood when somebody would come, husband, wife, you remember how fight sometimes goes on. Then sometimes I have to talk to them and say, you know, in family life, you need adjustment. When you wash the dishes in the sink, they make noise. Cups and plates, dishes, they make noise. That doesn't mean you will have to break all of your dishes. They make noise in the sink. Look, adjustment in human body. Your teeth and tongue, they adjust. Sometimes we bite our tongue by mistake. That doesn't mean you will have to bring a hammer and break your teeth. You tell your tongue and teeth, hey, adjust quietly. Really, we do. Sometimes we bite our tongue. That doesn't mean you will have to break your teeth. Adjustment. In our monastic life also, sometimes there is friction, no doubt. So there are two monks had fight. And they came to Swami, one monk could not bear it, he came to Swami Brahmananda. Swami Brahmananda said, my son, I don't feel good today, come tomorrow. He would harass, that was a technique. Because time has a factor to solve many problems. Don't do anything, it will be solved. So that was Maharaj's technique, don't do anything, just let it go, time. The next day when he came, hey, I don't feel good today, come tomorrow. So that evening, that monk who was humiliated, he came and fell at Swami Brahmananda's feet. And holding the feet and cried, Maharaj, you will have to make a decision. You will have to take an action. I cannot bear anymore. Do you know what Brahmananda did? He put his hand there on that monk's head and said only one sentence. Do you remember why did you leave home? You left your father, mother, family, everything for God realization. And here you are quarreling and fighting. Just one sentence solved that monk's problem. Do you remember why, when you left, why did you leave home? Of course, he had a spiritual power. He could lift the person's mind very quickly. Sometimes I say, friction. Lack of adjustment means friction. And sometimes say, when the plane, a big plane, always remember, above 32,000 feet, there is a jet stream. If it is at 10,000 feet, plane cannot take speed. Friction against the air. But the moment it goes in the jet stream, 600 miles per hour. Friction, friction. We have so much friction. All this friction comes from ego. He beautifully mentioned, I remember one story, Sri Ramakrishna was telling his nephew Radhu, hey Radhu, when you will be angry, I shall keep quiet. And when I shall be angry, you should keep quiet. Otherwise, the temple guards will have to come and settle our problems. How beautifully solved it. When you will be angry, I shall keep quiet. When I shall be angry, you keep quiet. Adjustment. Sometimes we see, we have nearly 1,800, nearly 2,000 monks, came from 2,000 families. Different language, different upbringing, different kind of education, different kind of status, all these things. How harmoniously we live in the order. Sri Ramakrishna united us all. Anyhow, I am glad I just told you some of these, how we also adjust in the monastery. There is no other way. Do you know what? If our goal is one, then differences go away. I sometimes say when we see husband and wife have the same goal, spiritual goal, I tell them, blessed you are. It is God's special grace. Sometimes I see husband is interested, wife is not interested. and vice versa. It is God's grace, harmony. You know, I sometimes tell people, don't make your wife angry. Your meditation will be disturbed. Please. Don't make Shakti angry. Create a beautiful atmosphere at home. That Swami said that how adjustment in every respect is necessary.